Nicola's here. Nicola is here.
Yay!
Yeah, fantastic. I'm going to hand you over, Sam and Nicola. Okay, I mean, she's got about a minute to go, just in case anyone's joining, especially to see her. But we can say hello to her. She's just connecting to her audio. And I will sort of be back with Harleed in about half an hour, I think, to talk about the Time Lords.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All
Thank you,
right,
Mandy.
over to you.
So I'm very excited. Excellent. Hi, Nicola. So yeah, we spoke a few days ago and it was absolutely fascinating. And I know that we could have just gone on and talked for hours and hours and hours. It got to a point I was like, okay, we need to stop now because you're just incredible and we can speak for hours. So I know you've got a talk coming up at 4:25, World of Spiritual Children, that I'm looking forward to. But right now you're going to talk about negative energy clearing and portal closing, which sounds incredible. So over to you.
Right, well, thanks, Sam. Yes, it's a huge subject, energy clearing and closing portals, but it all really began when I started to teach a workshop called Awakening the Illuminated Heart. And in this workshop, we had to learn how to clear energy from people going through a healing process in order for them to be able to journey into their heart and activate Merkaba light bodies. So when I came away from doing the training in Mexico, I then was guided to offer this service to others that I didn't know I could actually do. Anyway, I was guided through spirit to this technique that I use, and I started to roll it out. Now, negative energy comes in so many different forms. It comes in the form of negative energy that you're storing from yourself, which could be created by the mind, which could be created by your emotions. And then we go as far as then to looking at external energies that can interfere with people in so many different ways. Now, I can't say to you that bad things don't happen out there, because they do. And regardless of what your beliefs are, and everybody is absolutely entitled to their beliefs, whether they believe in negativity or not. But everybody will have at some time in their life an experience that they know just doesn't just belong to them. It belongs to something external. So many people go through life thinking that maybe they have an illness or a mental health problem, and all of these can literally be because they're carrying something that's not theirs. So in the auric field, which I most people just call the aura, but I call it the field, because we have multiple layers to our auric field that can store various different types of energy, emotions, etc. Now, when we look into this on a deeper level, we're looking at what part of the energy field is of our creation and what part is of an external creation that maybe we've picked up, we've even been implanted with. Because in the line of mental health, most aspects of mental health, even going as far as having a psychotic episode, can be very much to do with a spiritual awakening. And everybody has different views on what it is to be spiritual. Everybody has different views on negative, positive energy. So people come to me and they have unexplained illnesses, pains in their body. I had one particular guy who was suicidal, and he just didn't know what to do with his life. And so when I looked through his energy field and I started to speak to him and encourage him to tell me his true feelings, it was quite apparent that he had attachments to him that were very negative, very destructive. And in fact, the two attachments that he had were of spirit energies that were grounded on the earth who had attached themselves to him because he was a bright light, but were then creating the energy of their own thoughts, their own behavior, because they had both committed suicide. And interestingly, they had both committed suicide on railway tracks. And this guy that came to me worked for the railway. So in looking at these energies and realizing that his thoughts, his emotions, his feelings weren't all entirely his, then what I was able to do was remove these entities, as we call them, send them through the light so that they can continue their path in consciousness, but also release him from the attachment that he had, that the emotions were driving him in a direction that he shouldn't be going. But equally, we were able to release him from these emotions so that he could live his life in a good way. So the negativity that we can pick up in our lives can cloud our vision. It can create physical problems in our body. And at this point, life becomes autonomous in as much that we don't have very much control over it. There are quite a lot of signs and symptoms that you can look out for in other people that would suggest that they possibly have something that's not theirs. And one of the key ones when you're talking to somebody is if they can keep eye contact or not. And it's very obvious when somebody has a negative attachment that they cannot look you in the eye and speak to you. They will avert their gaze, they will turn their head away, they'll dip their head down. So that's one of the signs. Another one is that people who have pains in their body, inexplicable pains, who have been through so many medical tests and they can't find anything wrong with them, that can be a sign. Nightmares can be a sign. Suicidal thoughts or thoughts of anger, and you know that you're not an angry person, but the anger just keeps rising and rising and you can't shift away from it. That's a sign. There's many, but the most important thing is that something can be done about it, and people can have this energy cleared, and they can get back on track with their normal lives. The guy that came to me, interestingly, when he came to see me, it was very late on a Friday night, and he turned up and he had a book in his hand, and it was a paperback book, and it was rolled up into like a scroll, and he was holding it so tight. And eventually I just needed to prise it out of his hands because I knew there was an attachment to this particular rolled up book that was keeping him in the mindset of not wanting to release the energy that was there. So eventually I managed to get the book out of his hands and I just put it to one side. And when he left, I said to him, "You won't be wanting this back then?" And he said, "No, I don't need it." So he then went home to see his family, and it did change his life. And the next day I took the book out into my garden and I thought, well, you know what, the best thing I can do is burn this. And as I unrolled the book, it was a New York bestseller on how to commit suicide. And that just blew me away. To think that there's books out there that, you know, can guide people how to do this is quite remarkable. So I thought, right, definitely the best thing to do is then to burn this book. So I put it in a metal dish in the garden to set fire to it, and it would not catch light. It was a paperback book. It was paper and it would not catch light. So I thought, well, then I need something a bit more drastic than just a lighter. So I threw lighter fluid on it, dropped a match in, and this book literally just exploded into ash. So it was obviously carrying quite a lot of negativity itself. So even when we're talking about negative energy in people, it's in objects as well. Now, taking this to another level, people can have attachments in their property. And one of the key things with the negativity that can be in a property is mostly it's normally in a room, and the negativity is coming into the room through a portal. Now, a portal is like an energy vortex that is a doorway, like a tunnel between consciousness, spirit, whatever you want to call it, and this particular room. So people send me photographs, and I ask them to take them of the corners of the room where they're having the most problem. And I can sense portals open where energies can come and go. And in fact, the most common place for these portals to be open is in children's bedrooms. So when I work with people in their homes, if they have children, it's highly likely the children don't sleep very well, or they'll have really vivid nightmares, or what's called night terrors. And these children will sort of have nightmares but can't wake up from them. So the parents hold the children, they sit with them, the children are sweating, they're crying, they're calling out, but they can't wake them up. Well, this is because children have a very high vibration and their light is very bright. So when these portals open in the rooms, the energies can come through, and then they will be attracted to first of all the light of the child. Bedrooms for children tend to be quite full of multiple colours. They can have a lot of toys in them, a lot of pictures on the walls. And in fact, a children's bedroom should be as calm a place as possible, where they can relax in a very calm environment. Now, when these negative energies come through the portals, they will come and they will be attracted to the brightest light, and the brightest light is the child. So then they start to interact with the child's energy, and then that's what affects the child going forward. So when I do this with a room, I can either be in the room or work from photographs. And the first thing is I get someone in the house to go into the room and feel the room. And literally I will say to them, put your hand up into the corner, and I'll direct them to the corner where the portal is. And people will put their hands up into the corner, and it will either be freezing cold, or their hands will start tingling, or they'll get a sensation running down their fingers and all the way down their arm. And that's where the portals are. And then sometimes you'll get one in an opposite corner, diagonal. And instead of what you see like an arc with a rainbow, you get an inverted arc that goes across the middle of the room. And so I get people to stand in the middle of the room, and I say, stand there, relax, close your eyes, just breathe and tell me what you're feeling. And they literally feel like they're swirling, they're turning. And so it's very tangible, the portals and the energy in the rooms. So then I would ask them to leave, and I clear the energy and close the portals. And when they go back in, the difference is so incredible. And in fact, people have even reported that the temperature's gone up in the room, and they stand in the middle and they're not swaying anymore. And I've had instant results where that night the child's gone back into its own bedroom, slept all the way through the night, and they've never had a problem since. You even get pets that won't go into these rooms. And then when it's been cleared, they open the door, the pet runs in, jumps on the bed as though there was nothing wrong. So whilst there's many beliefs that people will dismiss that there's negative energy out there, you can't dismiss it if you're experiencing it. If you're experiencing it personally, if you're experiencing it in a room, you cannot dismiss it, because it is so tangible, it's very real. And most people who are experiencing these negativities will find it very different afterwards. Now, it can be in one room, it can be in multiple rooms, it can be a whole house, and it can actually be the land that the house is built on as well, because where people build on land all around the world, I guess what should be investigated is what was there before. What's the history of the land? Because I've worked on houses that have brand new houses that have been built on areas where there may have been mental institutions or hospitals, or where there's possibly energy hanging around that really should have been cleared, but people don't know it exists. So when I'm working on the whole land, the energy could be well, one particular place I went to, when I walked down into the garden, I walked to the center of this grassed area, and I said to the lady, "There's water under here," and she said, "Well, there used to be a well." And I said, "Well, the energy's trapped in the well, and we need to release it." So energetically, by releasing the energy from the well that was filled in, because we know that water is a great source of energy, and even in feng shui, water needs to flow, it can't be stagnant. So releasing the energy from that particular part of the land, and it wasn't about digging a hole and making another well, it was creating an energetic opening for the trapped energy to move where it needs to go. So whether it's a property, whether it's a person, whether it's an object, everything is energy, everything. You know, we're energy, the bricks that build the house are energy, the chair that I'm sitting on is energy. And it just depends on the density of the energy that creates an object, whether it's solid or not. Even if we look at quantum physics, a quantum physicist can only see energy in the universe as being solid or just energy. They can't see it as being both. But in the world of spirituality, in the world of the mystical, energy is something that is so incredibly powerful and tangible in so many ways that we need to be mindful of how we're interacting with energy. So there's so many stories I could share with you about energy clearing, but it's not something that should be afraid of. It's not something that should be feared. It's very much something that we need to embrace to a certain level of understanding so that we don't fear it, because the negative energy feeds on fear. And the more fearful you become, the more profound and more real this energy can become, but the greater effect it can have on people's lives. So I'll give you another example of a lady that came to see me once, and she came and she'd had this incredibly bad back for a long time, and she went to see many doctors and nobody could find anything wrong. She'd had MRI scans and there was nothing wrong with the bones, there was nothing wrong with the ligaments, but she had this very debilitating pain in her back. So when she came in, I was very aware that she was carrying an entity with her. And when I work with people personally, I get them to talk, and I get them to talk about everything but how they feel. We avoid the pain subject, we avoid everything to do with why they're here. I just get them to talk to me about what they're feeling, as in life. Well, when you do that, the entity that's attached itself to the human being is angry for being ignored. So then the energy starts to rise to the surface, and when it gets to a certain level, then I can interact with that energy. This lady stopped me from speaking, and she leant forward in the chair and she said, "Please, may I say something to you?" And I said, "You can say anything you like." And she leant forward and her whole face screwed up. And I won't use the actual language that came from her, but suffice to say, she said, "I hate you with a F word in the middle. And I said to her, that's absolutely fine. And then I knew that the entity was ready to be released. So at this point, she laid down and I started to work with the energy. Now, the energy, when I release from a human, normally comes from the solar plexus area, from the stomach. But this one was rising up, and you could see almost like her neck was starting to bulge. But remember, we're talking energy, not physical. And this energy rose, and her mouth began to open like a serpent's mouth. It was just the most bizarre thing. And this energy presented itself. And at this point, I knew it wasn't of human form. So I called in my spirit helpers, and I said to them, you're going to have to be on standby here, because this thing needs to go, and it needs to go way, way, way out there to be transmuted into love. And so I grabbed hold of this energy, and I mean, I can laugh about it now, but it was deadly serious at the time. And it's like I've got my hands around a serpent. And I asked one of the angels to sweep through her body and push this energy out. And as it pushed out, my arm shot up in the air, and it felt like my arm was going to come out of its socket. Anyway, the angel took the energy away. But in the process of this energy being released, this lady stopped breathing, and she was going blue around her mouth. Now, I have to stay really, really calm, because if I go into any amount of fear, then I'm at risk of that energy then maybe attaching itself to me. So I'm staying as calm as I possibly can. My arm's being wrenched out of my shoulder socket. This energy leaves her. She's stopped breathing. She's gone blue in the mouth. And literally, as it left her body, she choked, she coughed, and she started to breathe. And I can't begin to tell you what a relief that was, because I don't know how I would have explained that if something awful had happened. So she started to breathe, she started to recover. And at that point, she sat up, and I gave her some water, and we just chatted for a little while. She got off of the couch, she moved to the chair where she'd been sitting. And in that moment, the back pain had gone. It was just completely disappeared. And as far as I know to this day, she hasn't had any back pain at all. Now, if we talk to the layperson, the skeptic, it's very hard to explain how you can remove something so energetic that's creating such a physical, debilitating situation in a human being. And by being able to remove that energy and give them their life back, it is really quite remarkable. Well, I'm hoping you are feeling my passion for it, because other than the other work that I do, the other spiritual work that I do, energy clearing is one of my favorites, because it can be so incredibly life-changing. And why wouldn't you want to change your life? Why wouldn't you want to be your true authentic self and not carry around something that doesn't belong to you? You know, if you were carrying baggage, you know, if you're carrying a heavy bag, and let's just say you've been on a beautiful holiday and you've collected your suitcase, and the suitcase is heavy, you don't want to carry that around for the rest of your life. You just want to put it down and let go of it. Well, this is what it's like, leaving something, getting rid of something that you've carried that's heavy and you don't need in your life. It's remarkable. And whether I'm clearing the bedroom of a child, whether I'm clearing negative energy from a human being, or simply freeing up a house that's been built on top of land where energy is trapped underneath it, the main word that comes to my mind in this is liberating. It's so incredibly liberating to everybody that's involved in the clearing, because you get your life back. You get your life back, you get back on track, and you start living rather than existing. Just one other very quick story. A lady came to me whose mother had died, and it became very apparent to me that the mother had attached herself to the daughter and hadn't gone through the light at the point of passing. And the daughter said to me, she was an older lady, and she said to me, every time I look in the mirror, I see my mother's face. And I could see why she was saying it, because the mother was just so there. And on discussion, she was holding her mother's hand when she passed, but the mother was sadly quite controlling in the daughter's life. So I cleared the mother's energy. The mother went through the light. The daughter was free of those feelings of her mother. And then I went and got the mirror from my bathroom, and I held it up in front of her face. And I said to her, tell me what you see. And she said, I see a mirror. I said, and tell me what else you see. She said, I see me. And that's all I needed to hear, because then I knew she was completely free of those attachments. So it's a huge subject, and I could tell you stories forever about my experiences. But I'm sure some of you will probably have some questions. So Sam, if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Nicola, thank you so much. That's absolutely incredible. And I've just been watching the chat, which has just gone absolutely bananas. There's so many amazing comments here and questions coming in. I think people are a bit blown away by you. Sharon's been riveted since the start. Leslie said, this is so great. Vicky said, excellent. Leslie's trying to keep awake in Australia because she's wanting to hear more. And it's like 11:30 there. Get some coffee, Leslie, get coffee. We've got a question from Khalid, who says, do children have guardian spirits? So when a child is getting attacked, can their own guardian protect them?
Their guardian can protect them, and yes, they do have protection. But what we have to bear in mind is that spirit can't interfere with a life path. So whether it's a guardian angel, whether it's a guardian spirit, they can't interfere with life paths. And so if a child is having an experience, there's a much bigger picture. And sometimes the child can be the enabler or the experiencer. And what I mean by that is they can enable the experience to happen for other people to learn from, or it can be a pure experience from themselves, that somewhere through life they will remember this and they'll utilize their experience in a positive way going forward. So from my perspective, what we experience in life is always for our highest good, positive or negative, but it's a learning opportunity.
Yeah. Amazing. There's a lot of people relating as well to a lot of the things you're talking about. Bernadette says she's got a portal that needs closing. Have you got any advice for maybe what she could do?
Yes, she could send me some pictures if she likes.
She said it's not negative, but it is waking her up. So it obviously has that energy and power to do.
Okay, so if she doesn't feel it's negative, what you can do is acknowledge the portal's there, and maybe you could look at why the portal is open and the energies that are coming through it, what they're trying to express or what they're trying to convey to her, so that once they've got the message across, they may well leave and close the portal, or it may stay open because she needs to be channeling something.
Right.
So there's multi facets there on what the portal's open for, especially if it's not a negative one. But she also has control, and she can actually say to the energies that come through the portal and to the portal itself, look, do you know what? I'd like a duvet night. You know, I'm happy that you're interested in me, but just let me sleep one night, please.
Yeah, I think we all need that, don't we?
Yeah.
We can probably say that to physical people as well as.
Oh, yes.
Can you leave me alone? I just need a bit of Netflix or a good sleep. Siobhan has asked, my child sees spirit. How can I help her to navigate this world in a safe and non-scary manner?
Okay. So she could, the best thing is to be open. So, and the best thing we can do with the children is listen to them, and not look at it as a taboo subject, not really try to analyze it, but keep a record of the child's experiences and what they're seeing, what they're feeling. And really, I feel like it's time to encourage the children with these experiences, because, you know, too many of them get to puberty and their abilities start to diminish and they get closed down, and then maybe later on in life they'll pick up a book and it'll ignite something within them. But is it navigating through it, or is it guiding them through it? You know, there are not very many books out there on how to work with a child spiritually. And that's why I set up the program for spiritual children that I'm going to be talking about in a couple of hours. But these children are so high vibrational, and we need to encourage them. You know, take her to a metaphysical shop, a crystal shop, and encourage her to choose some crystals and sit with those and hold them. You can get them to meditate with the experiences they've had, but it's not navigating, it's guiding. And trust me that when a child sees spirit, the parents that they chose through birth will have the know-how how to guide these children, because that's why they chose the parents. And so have no fear, have a good pair of ears for listening, guide the child and be guided yourself in what they need to do.
And I guess we lead through teaching as well. So by trying to not be scared yourself and just being with your child and being present, I guess really helps. But I love that about crystals, and hopefully that helps.
Yeah, you can get children's angel cards as well that they love.
Lovely. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. We've got a couple of minutes left. Vicky says, can you have the portals closed, and can they come back again once they have been closed?
It's highly unlikely that they will come back again, and yes, they can be closed. And what I find fascinating is when they've been closed, some people come back to me and say, where you close that portal, there's a spider in the corner of that room. And spiders represent protection. So that doesn't surprise me that a spider turns up, but very rarely do they reopen. And the method I use in clearing the room, closing the portals, they're sealed. And when they're sealed, they very rarely open.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you. It's really interesting for me because I've never admitted this to anyone, but I, as a child, used to stare at corners of the room. And I found myself sort of talking to corners. And it wasn't until I got a bit older that I was like, I'm talking to the corners of the room. And I've not sort of developed, you know, in that way. But yes, looking back at it now, there was definitely something more open in me that I've perhaps learned to close, unfortunately. But that's a very weird coincidence, if not.
No, but I tell you what, Sam, there's a lot more conversations that we need to have.
Yes. Thank you. Vicky has said thank you. Bernadette said thank you so much for answering her question. There's another thank you from Siobhan as well. Yeah. So I think you've probably helped loads and loads of people. So I know you're back at 4:25 with World of Spiritual Children, which we're now all looking forward to. And Leslie, you're going to have to stay awake for that, if not. Yeah. So thank you so much. Do you want to just say about your